Hi, it's crochet time. It is chocolate orange crochet time, and this is what we're going to be making. It is a little dinosaur. It's a cute version of a dinosaur. It's not an angry dinosaur. He's got a little smiley face there, and he's got these lovely little dots. These are little felt dots that I've stitched on. Of course, you can glue them on if you really want to. And obviously, he's got his little sort of spines there. Now, it is a chocolate orange cover. There you can see the chocolate orange. But I know somebody had mentioned, what about a bath bomb? Fabulous idea. That's something I'm definitely looking into. So I'm looking for some bath bombs. You've got to make sure it's one of those that's covered, because I know when you go in Lush or somewhere like that, there's no covering. I suppose you could sort of wrap some cellophane wrap around it. That would probably work. And put perhaps a nice sticker on it or something like that. But yeah, you do need that size approximately of a chocolate orange if you're going to do it. Another mention was maybe socks. Again, another wonderful idea. Not everybody can actually eat chocolate. My chocolate is obsessed. That says it all, doesn't it? My family is quite obsessed with chocolate, which is really bad, I know. But yes, we are a chocolatey family, definitely. But I know, like my mum's diabetic, for example, not everybody can eat chocolate. You could be allergic to chocolate, or it's just you don't like chocolate. I find that hard to believe, but there are people who don't like chocolate. So perhaps they would like another little gift, because you'd still want to make this. These stand quite well alone, so you could pop anything in that's approximately that sort of shape. As I said, with the socks maybe rolled up, something like that. If you can think of something else, pop a link below. Tell me if you've seen something, or if you can give me a suggestion, because if other people are reading the comments, then they can go, oh, I could do that as well. So it would be nice to know what else. I know I call it a chocolate orange cover. I know you could do fruit, but obviously fruit doesn't always last, so you've got to be a bit careful with that. But yeah, let's have a think what we could actually pop inside this this little cute cozy here. Now, we're going to do this top down now. If you do enjoy my videos, please like, subscribe and share. It means a lot. But don't forget, I'm in UK terms. So if you're crocheting elsewhere in the world, you may need a conversion chart if you're not used to the UK terminology. The stitch is the same. If you're watching me, you just watch the stitch. Perhaps don't sort of listen to the description of the stitch. Obviously, if I say a double crochet, that could be a treble elsewhere. So just have a little look, or maybe get that conversion chart. So we're going to go top down and we're going to get crocheting. I will see you in a second. Here we are with our little dinosaur. I've already told you a little bit about him, but here's a closer up look of him. He is quite simple to make. I really enjoy doing it. A bit of pain doing lots of those, but you can do as many or as few as you wish. We have some safety eyes in here. As I've mentioned with safety eyes, if they are going to be made for a younger person, a gift, you do need to be careful with these. You need to make sure they're good quality, or best to just stitch the eye detail on. We just stitch the little mouth on there. We needed a little bit of stuffing for his tail here, not a lot, but it's just a little bit there. If you don't have any stuffing, you could use a little bit of the matching yarn just to sort of pad it out. Obviously my orange is underneath, and let's have a look how he stands. He stands quite well, so it could be like a little decoration after the fact as well, because they do stand quite solidly, which is quite nice. So we're going to pop into one side, show you what we need. We have some double knit yarn. You can go for whatever colour you want. Dinosaurs, we don't know what colour they were, so they could be anything that you want. I have a little bit of sewing cotton, because I did sort of just sew these little circles on. But again, if you don't like to sew, you can stick the little circles on. This is just a normal bit of felt, just sort of, I think you can get it in sheets from most sort of hobby shops for about 50-60 pence. I've got quite a bit of felt because we do use it for other things as well. So that's all I did, cut out some little circles and stick them on. Again, as more or less as you wish. Have my needles. I have, obviously we need to know what crochet hook. It is a 3.5mm crochet hook. This little bit of crochet cotton is what I use for his mouth. Now the safety eyes I've used are here. I don't know whether I've got written on. Oh, if I can keep it still. It's not going to hold on. I'm trying to see what size they are for you. I have a piece of paper in here, so I'll keep them separate. They are 9mm safety eyes I've used on this one, if you need to know. Because I sort of buy mine sort of quite a few at a time, and I keep them in these tubes, so I know where they are. So we're going to just get started. There's my needles and my scissors and my extra bit of cottons I don't need. I have a stitch marker here, up to you whether you use it. It's relatively easy to see where you're going, but it is handy, especially if you're talking. That is why I mainly need a stitch marker. I have a drink here to one side because my throat keeps going dry. So let's get going. I've gone for green for the main part of the body. I'm trying to think if I've got everything on the table. I haven't actually, but we'll sort it out as we go along. I haven't got my stuffing on the table, have I? Never mind. Right, so we're going to be starting with our slip knot. It is amigurumi, but we are going to be using half trebles. You can still work the amigurumi system with a half treble, even though it is generally seen as a double crochet technique. But we are going to start with a set of double crochets, if nothing else. So 2 chain, and then 6 double crochets into that first chain, just to get us going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, as you know, because we're doing an amigurumi style, we're not going to slip stitch join or anything, but we can tighten that up at least. So into the first of those 6 you did, you're going to do 2 half trebles. So we're not going to do any joins or anything. We're just going to count our stitches. So yarn round for a half treble. Remember UK terms. Into the stitch we need. The first one's always a bit tricky. We're going to pull it through. We have 3 on the hook, and then we pull it through all 3. That is your half treble. You're going to do another half treble into the same space. Yarn round into the same space, pull it through all 3. So that's our first set. We have 6 of those to go, and you can hear my throat's already going. I haven't got a sore throat. I don't know what it is. It's just irritating for some reason. So yarn round. We're going to go into our second stitch. Pull through again into our second stitch and pull through. So that's our second one. We go for number 3. So that's the first one in number 3 and our second one in number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And number 6. Obviously, because we've done 2 in each of the original 6, we now have 12 stitches. Let's tighten that up again. So you can see we're already expanding. So we're not going to keep with these half trebles. This is why the stitch marker might be useful. But for this first one, I'm not. I'm just going to count it because we have 12 stitches there. And again, I'm going to do 2 in each. So we end up with 24 stitches. So I'm going to count these 12 that are going to have 2 in each. Okay, so yarn round into the first one. Pull through again into the first one. Pull through. So that's our first one. So this is the second one with 2 half trebles. Our third one. Our fourth one. And our fifth one. Almost halfway there. Number 6. So we're halfway there now. So we've got 6 more to do with 2 trebles in each, 2 half trebles in each, should I say. So this is number 7. Number 8. Number 9, I've got a horrible feeling I missed one there. We will count them in a second. So it should be 2 in each, remember. So that is 10. That's 11. And this is 12. Now I'm going to count them. It's weird, with amigurumi you could probably get away with 1 stitch being out, but it is important to make sure you know where you are. So I'm taking my hook out, and then you just count these top bits here. Can you see where there's like the 2 bits, sort of like a little bit of a plait sort of look? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Now I did think I had missed a stitch, so at this point it's quite important to check how many you've got, and if you haven't, you need another one. I had a feeling, because when I counted, I think it was when I was around here, I went 7 and I did 1 stitch in, and then I jumped to the next one and I just said 8, and it wasn't right because I'd not done 2 in the one. So we now have
24 stitches, which is what I needed. There is going to be one more increase round, so I am going to pop my stitch marker in now, because when I'm talking I do lose track of the count. So I'm going to pop that in there. It needs to be a little bit further over, I think. It's a little strawberry that I'm using today. I haven't got any dinosaur ones. Anything we need to think about. Right, so I'm going to do 2 half trebles, 1 half treble. And I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So you're repeating it 12 times to end up with 36 stitches. So we're going to do a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1, so on and so forth. So here we go. This is our first one as a 2. There's 2 half trebles in that one, and then 1 half treble in the next one. So that's set number 1. We're going to do that again. We have a 2 in this one. Then we have a 1 in the next one. Second set done. We have a 2, we have a 1, and what I'm going to do now is, because I'm talking, I'm just going to go all the way around to our stitch marker, and we should have 36 stitches, fingers crossed. If you've got some nice quiet time, I do recommend that you do actually count when you're increasing, because it can make a difference. So we'd probably get away with 1 stitch here. But depending on what you're making, it is important that you get your stitches right. So it's a 2, it's a 1, it's a 2, and a 1. You can see how it's expanding nicely now. So this is to sort of go over the top of our orange. So we have a 2, and we have a 1. 2 and 1, 2 and 1, almost there. I think it's 2 more sets. I would say it is, yeah. We have a 2. Let me double check. I don't know, maybe another set. Look where your stitch marker is. No, I'm happy to say I am round at that point. I am going to move my stitch marker up at this point, because as you know, if you don't keep moving your stitch marker up, your positioning sort of changes when you're working in a spiral system, so you do have to watch that. So we now hopefully have 36 stitches. That is the aim. And we're now going to do just half treble rounds. We're going to do 8 rounds. So if you're wanting to sort of speed ahead here, perhaps pause the video and do your 8 and then come back to me. I will see you in a few minutes. If you're staying with me, hello, and I will be chattering along, so if you don't need that bit, you can also turn the volume off, whichever works for you. Again, you can change the speed of the video. It's the beauty of the video and YouTube, you can do that, so you work whatever works best for yourself. So I'm just going to mark round. I'm just looking, I could do with a pencil. I know I've got one near me. It's actually a pen, but it will do. So I'm, oh, nearly knocked the camera. I'm going to mark down 8 rounds. So off we go. I'm just going to use the stitch marker. They are all half trebles, and it just goes round and round and round. Now I've done this slightly different to some of the others. I've increased faster using half trebles, so I think it sort of makes it a little bit easier. So I might use this system in the future. Sometimes it works for different styles and sometimes it doesn't. The beauty of crochet, it is so flexible. You can make it suit whatever you want it to suit. So I'm just going to potter around doing this. This is quite a nice yarn. I love green as well, so it's quite a nice. Some colours, if you're working with, sometimes they're just really not nice, and I think it actually puts you off your crochet depending on what you're doing. I think I like the variegated, as I've mentioned before, because of the colour changing all the time. But I think this green is quite a nice soothing green to work with. If you've got a dinosaur fan in your family like we have, this would make a fabulous gift. I know we're all looking towards Easter for making chocolatey gifts. That's what we're thinking of. But I think this particular design, obviously, it's not specifically Easter based, is it? So you could use it any time of the year to pop a gift in, or just to cover a gift. As I said before, it doesn't have to be an orange. It could be anything. I'm looking forward to seeing if anybody pops any comments on that, suggesting what they think. So I know I mentioned the bath bomb and the socks that have been previously mentioned. We mark that down. That's one. I think we can go another round before I have to move that stitch marker. But I say it would be nice to know if anybody knows of any other items that are approximately this sort of shape. It doesn't have to be 100% sort of circular, does it? It's not circular, it's a sphere. If we go, see, it's starting to curve in already, which is good, which is good. That's what you need it to do, because it has to curve around our orange, of course. I'm just going to push it out that way, because it curls in, it sometimes makes it harder to work with. So every now and again, just sort of push it back round to its right side, because we're working on the right side of the crochet now. Nearly dropped the stitch then. This is a Stylecraft yarn I am using, if you're wanting to know what yarn it is. Here in the UK, Stylecraft, well, I don't know whether it's elsewhere as well, but Stylecraft is sort of one of the bigger yarn companies over here. And their colour range is fabulous. I mean, I'm using Stylecraft at the moment for the book that it's not going to be out till next year, but yay, I'm doing a book with Search Press at the moment. And Stylecraft are the sponsors of the yarn for that, because I like the sort of variety they have, you know, sort of for a base, you know, your colour palette is quite amazing, and it's quite a consistent yarn, which is nice. I know we've mentioned before different double knits can be different thicknesses and things like that, but especially for a basic range of yarn and for its price, I do like their products. And no, I'm not being sponsored by them for this. It's just I do use Stylecraft anyway. Right, you can see it's sort of shaping up now. So that is our round number 2. And off we go, round number 3. As I mentioned, we have 8 rounds, but you do need to check on your orange every now and again, depending again on your yarn and your tension. Everybody's slightly different. I think I'm in the middle somewhere for tension, but somebody else could be tighter, so then sort of might be a problem with going on the orange, and somebody might be a lot looser, so then they might need one less round perhaps. So you do need to keep checking. It's like with any pattern. This is why I don't like making clothing, as in full-size clothing. I love making doll clothing, because it's that business about tension. I know they always say do a tension square and things like that. Does any of you do a tension square? I don't. I'm really bad. I jump straight into whatever I'm doing and hope for the best. When I'm doing sort of my own designs, that's easy because I can just alter it as I want. It doesn't matter. But when you're doing somebody else's, it can completely throw the pattern if you start messing about and changing it. But I have made things in the past, sort of it was like little cardigans, things like that. And I say I'm quite sort of steady with my tension now, but when I first started, my work was really tight to a point where my hands hurt because I was like having to force that crochet hook in. So my work was very tight, so things were coming out smaller than they should have been, but I just could not alter that. I think sometimes tension comes with practice. It's as simple as that. The more you do, the more you'll get this consistent sort of tension. I mean, I still do get some changes now. I know I mentioned sort of famously when you do a granny square. Let me just mark this one down. I think we need to move that stitch marker actually, don't we? So we've got 3 rounds. I'm going to move the stitch marker up now because otherwise we're going to lose, because we're not counting. We're going to lose where we are. You can see it's coming around nicely now. Oh, my wool's on the floor. It's not going to go far where it is, so it'll be okay. There we go. I was just saying about a granny square. I know the first sort of granny squares I did came out so small, and even now if I'm doing a new pattern or sort of creating a new design, quite often the first one I do will come out smaller very slightly than my second one. I think it's probably just because I'm concentrating when I'm designing something, so I'm sort of like working sort of really sort of a little bit tense on it, so it makes my tension tighter, but it doesn't help when you're trying to make a matching pair. So quite often my first one when I'm making something is not a write-off, but I can't pair it up with anything if it was a pair. you know, like a pair of doll shoes or something like that. We're doing well here. What are we on? We're on round 4, aren't we? Yep, I'm just looking what I've marked down there. I thought I'd done more than that, but no. Now the body is sort of all in half trebles apart from our very last round. So this is quite simple, but the head and the tail are in double crochets. So they don't actually take that long. Obviously the body's going to take the longest, but I don't think it takes too long. I think working in the half trebles like this, so it speeds it up slightly rather than working in double crochets, but it also leaves it dense enough so you can't really see through gaps. I think if you use trebles, for example, it would be a little on the loose side. I think half treble keeps it still quite tight. I think it's one of my favourite stitches. The half treble also allows a little bit of stretch, which again, if depending on your tension, might be useful. Right, that's round again. So that's our number 4. So we're halfway there now. So let's have a little look on our orange to see how we're going. Yep, that's lovely. It needs a little bit of a resistance because if you sort of do that, you can see it doesn't instantly go on. So you need a bit of resistance so it does clip onto the orange, but it needs to go on quite smoothly. So you can see we're about halfway there. Off we go, carrying on round. So we're on round number 5 here. As I was saying with the half treble, it does allow more stretch. The larger the stitch is, the more movement you will get out of that piece of fabric when you've finished it. So sometimes it's about altering the stitch just so you can change its shape. I mean, if you did, for example, just I don't know, 20 rows of double crochets, and then you went 20 rows of half trebles and 20 rows of trebles, your work will have actually expanded just purely because of the length of the stitch. So you do have to be careful when you're doing things like that. There's more stretch. It's great when you're doing doll clothes though. So for example, a smart doll, because she's a very curvy girl, sometimes, you know, you don't, well, her waist is tiny compared with the rest of her, and you need that little bit of flexibility over certain body types, body points should I say. So the half treble comes in great because you don't want it to go see-through over the doll, but the half treble allows you to stretch it over their bodies a little bit. So that's the other reason I like it. It's not that it necessarily makes it sort of bigger, it just gives it more movement, I think. Right, we're almost back to our strawberry. The light's just gone very dark out there. I do have a light over the work I'm doing, but I shut the curtains because the sun was shining through really brightly and it was sort of creating a shadow. I mean, there's a bit of a shadow here, and you can see the orange is creating a shadow. But the sun was really coming through bright. And now obviously it must be cloudy out there because it's gone away. One more stitch, and that is round number 5. We have 3 more rounds for the body. Yes, it's a body. I was about to say, what am I talking about? An orange doesn't have a body, but it's obviously the dinosaur body I'm on about. Dear me. Referring back to the smart doll, I do have another crochet video this week, and it is going to be for some smart doll. We'll call them cuffs. They're not fingerless gloves, they're cuffs, which I'm quite pleased about actually. So if you're one of my crocheters that do doll items as well as my basic crochet, have a look at that one when I get it set up, because I'm quite pleased. It is using a much smaller hook though than I normally use for videos. I mean, I use smaller hooks for myself, but I think with the videos I do try and keep it so that everybody can have a go. But with some of the doll stuff, you do have to take it down smaller because otherwise it would look way too chunky. You get away with hats and things like that, but I think with these little cuffs I had to bring it down a little bit. I mean, I've not gone down too far. They are only 4-ply, but the hook is a 1.75, which is a lovely hook to use. I don't like crochet hooks between a 2 and a 2.75 because they always bend. I wish they would make them sturdier. I don't get it. Perhaps it's just me. Perhaps I'm the only person who bends a smaller hook. But it's weird because then when you go too small, like the 1.75 for example, that's a steel hook, so that's rock solid. But the 2 and the 2.5 and the 2.75, they're not, and they're weak. They're very weak hooks. I really wish they would make them in steel. That is number 6. So we're coming on nicely now. As always, I'm looking at it and going, oh, that would make a nice doll hat. I think I just like this shape. I'm always making things that are this shape. So what did I say we're on? We're on round 7, aren't we? So we've only got one more round after this, apart from a final round after that, which will be a double crochet round. Now I know some of you have obviously just paused me and gone on to the next section, so you're probably at the bit where I'm talking about a double crochet already. Oh, nearly caught it. If you do make one of these dinosaurs, please sort of tag me. Mainly on Instagram, I find the easiest way to be tagging me with things. I'd love to see it because I know when people do different colours and things like that, it's great to see the different colour combinations. You could have like a little family of them all in different colours. Blues would look quite nice, wouldn't they? Or blue and yellow, or oh, I don't know, even blue and orange, that'd be a bit bright. Because I said we don't really know what colour dinosaurs were, do we? So I know once upon a time they've always been sort of shown as being dull and brown and things like that. But I know that recently there was some sort of insight into saying, well, why would they be? You know, sometimes animals are bright to sort of protect themselves and things like that. Right, we're round. I really should have moved that stitch marker, shouldn't I? So our dinosaurs can be as mad as you want. They can be any colour. We can have multicoloured different spots on there. Let's move that up. There we go. So we only have one more round of half trebles now. So here we go for our last half treble round. But yeah, I'd love to see it if you've done them in different colours or different designs, different sort of, you could put a little felt heart on the side, or you could do all sorts of different things. Change the facial features. There's lots you can do. I just love amigurumi so much because of that. You can take a very basic shape and you could have 10 people and all take that basic shape and every single one will come out individual and looking cute. It's just so easy and versatile. We're halfway around on our last round. I'll pop my Instagram link in actually. I always forget to put my links in, you know, for my my Facebook and my Instagram, and I mean I have got a Twitter account. I don't really do much with it, but I always forget to put them in. And obviously if you guys do want to link me or something like that, I need it there, don't I? Because it does get a little bit confusing because my Instagram is just my name, but then I have a Smart Doll Octopudding Instagram. So it does throw people, but it's just because I couldn't get Octopudding on its own at one point. So that's why I had to do that. I suppose it might be worth a check to see if I could get hold of it now. Right, we are round. Now I am doing one more round of double crochets. The reason being is, let's pop it on the orange here. That fits on okay, but if I now do a double crochet round, it just tightens it. That tiny little bit, you know, I was saying how it's a tighter stitch and the longer the stitch the looser it becomes. Well, a double crochet is a tighter one, so we're going to do a double crochet one now. So just one double crochet into the top of each of those half trebles just to tighten it up a little bit so it doesn't, so the orange doesn't fall out, and it makes it a little bit solider on the base then for it to stand up. I mean, as you can see, can't really see him, can you? There he is. He's standing up quite well and there's no orange in that at all. because it's a shame not to have them as a something after the orange or the gift has been used. I know some people have sort of carried on and sort of filled them and sort of stuffed them. So you could do that as well, make a little base for him and then stuff him. So you could make him into a little toy. Trying to decide, do we do the head or the tail next? I think we'll go for the tail. We'll leave his little face till the last minute. Where's my strawberry gone? Oh, it's there. Counting down, we're almost there. Just a few more. Right, I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to do a slip stitch, just because I like to sort of flatten it off. I think a slip stitch just flattens it off at the end there, but you don't have to do that. There we go, fasten off, take my stitch marker out. And for now, obviously you need to sew your ends in. I'm just going to tuck our ends in and slide it over my chocolate orange there, so it sits on quite nicely there. You need to make sure it's sort of flat. Say if you sat it down and you looked at it, you need to make sure you can't see the orange there. So that is why I say if your work is a little bit tight, you may need to add on a row. If your work is a little bit looser, you may need to have shifted one of those half treble rounds. But that's something, unfortunately, you have to experiment on, not something I can sort of guess. I would love to guess for you, but I can't, obviously, if I can't see your tension. Right, we're going to go for the tail now. We've got a little pointy tail here. So it's just like a little triangle-y sort of tail we've got there. It's a cone. You know, I'm terrible. My maths are terrible. I should know. It's a cone. Right, so we're going to start with our 2 double crochets. The whole of his tail is in a double crochet. We're going to do 6 into that first chain, just like we normally do. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I can hear the cat. Right, so we have our 6 stitches there. We are now going to do 1 double crochet into each of those. This always makes it a little bit fiddly, but we need to get a little bit of a point going off on that tail. So here we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1 more. And 6. There we go. So it sort of curls round on itself, which is a little bit annoying, so you really do need to push it out at this point, because otherwise it's going to make it hard for you to actually get into the stitches. So make sure you've pushed it right side out. And now we're going to do 2 double crochets in one double crochet in the next, and you're going to do that 3 times. So we have 2 double crochets in this first one, 1 in the next one, 2 double crochets in the next one, 1 in the next one. You see where I'm going here. Last set, 2 double crochets in this one and 1 in the next one. This gives us 9 stitches. We are now going to do another double crochet round, so it's just 1 in each of those 9, so we can just count 9. We don't need stitch markers for that. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. We do need a bit more of an increase. The next one is very similar. We're going to do a 2 in our first one and then a 1 and a 1. And you will do that 3 times to give us 12 stitches. So we have 2 in our first one and then 2 individual ones, 1 and 1. That's our first set. We do 2 in our next one. Then we're going to do a 1 and a 1. That's our second set. Third set coming up. 2 in the first one, a 1 and a 1. So we've increased now. You can see sort of the shape coming. We have 12 stitches. Double crochet round. Let's just count 12 stitches. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. We need another bit of increase in, and again this time it is actually going to be the same as the last one. We will do a 2 and a 1 and a 1, but we're going to do that 4 times this time, so it will increase us up to 16. So we have a 2, the cat wants to come in, a 1 and a 1. We have a 2, we have a 1 and a 1. That's our second set. We have a 2, a 1 and a 1. That's set number 3. Our last set, we have 2 in this one, and then a 1 and a 1. If at any point I'm going a little bit too fast, don't forget you can slow me down in the settings there. So we're going to have a double crochet round of 16 stitches. Off we go. We can count this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see we're almost there, can't you? 5, 6, 7, 8, halfway there. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, nearly 15 and 16. I don't know, the wool's pulling a bit. I know I said it dropped on the floor. No, it's okay. So we're going to need one more increase here to give us up to 20 stitches, and this time we are going to do a 2 in 1 and then 1, 2 and 3 individual ones times 4. It'll give us 20 stitches. So we have a 2, and then we're going to have a 1, 1 and a 1. That's our first set. We're going to have a 2, then we're going to have a 1, a 1 and a 1. That was our second set. We're going to have a 2, we're going to have a 1, a 1 and a 1, and our very last one we're going to have a 2, then we're going to have a 1, a 1 and a 1, and I'm going to do a slip stitch to finish. We are there. That is the little tail done. That was nice and simple. So you can see what they've got shape. You can actually position this also wherever you wanted. I've sort of positioned it quite high. I suppose for a dinosaur you could have it down there, which would look quite cool. I don't know why I ended up doing it sort of that shape. I know my son said it like a teapot, but it worked for me. So really you can decide where that is going to stitch on. It would also determine how many of those you'd make as well. So that's our tail done. We now need our little head. The head, again, basic amigurumi. There's nothing sort of particularly difficult there. So we're going to start with our 2 chain and our 6 double crochets into 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Obviously we need to increase there, so we're going to be doing 2 into every single one of those 6 to give us our 12 stitches. And here we go. This is all double crochets. So we have 1, 2, remember UK turn double crochets though, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Right, we still need to increase, but this time we're not going to do 2 in each. We're going to do 2 in our first one and then 1 in the second one times 6, which will give us 18 stitches. So we're going to have a 2 in this one and a 1. That's our first set. We're going to have a 2 and a 1. That's set number 2. A 2 and a 1. Set number 3. 2 and 1. That's set number 4. That's set number 5. And our last one with a 2 first. and then a 1. That's our last set. We now have 18 stitches on there, so we're going to just work in double crochet rounds. So I'm going to pop my stitch marker in purely because I'm talking, but you have only got 18 stitches, so we're only going to have 4 rounds, so you could just count those 18 stitches times 4. So off we go. What have I got there? There's a little hair stuck there, and what that's about. Off we go. So these are just plain 1 double crochet into every double crochet, and you're going to do 4 sets, 4 rounds of those. Now I know he looks like he's got safety eyes in. I mean, he's my demonstration piece, it's not like it's going to be a gift or anything, but I did make a mistake. I sewed, is that right? Yeah, I sewed the head on with its stuffing and everything, and I didn't put the eyes in. We're going to put the eyes in this time. So that's round 1. I'm going to mark these off, so we need 4 of them. So off we go for round number 2. These go quite quick compared with that. This is an absolute doddle. See, it's starting to curl as well, which is good because it means we're getting the shape we want. But yes, I forgot to put the safety eyes in, and the amount of times I've said that and the amount of times I've done it wrong. Usually I would undo the item and redo it, but because I'd already made it up without remotely thinking about its face, I have actually pushed them in and glued them. It's very naughty. I don't do glue. I'm not a glue person. I usually sew everything. But for speed, because I knew I needed to do the video today as well, and because he is only a demonstration, that is round 3. We need another one. I did actually glue it. We're nearly there. We've nearly got his little head, and so we're going to pop the little eyes in. As I say, these are 9mm safety eyes. Make sure your safety eyes are good quality, because there is some absolute rubbish out there. I know sometimes when I've got them on, say, front of a magazine or with a kit or something like that, I've been quite sort of, oh, you know, that's not really holding. I don't really like that as a safety eye. So please be careful where you're buying them from. Right, I'm round. So that is our little head again. You can sort of place these however you wish to get different shapes for your little dinosaurs. That's why I said I'd love to see what other people do, just to see what combinations they get. So I've just done a slip stitch to finish because I just do, and we can fasten it off. So we're going to go on to the little spine first before we do anything else. Now the spine is so quick, but it depends on how many you decide you want of these little lumps, so they can be a little bit tedious to do. But basically, let me just get you going. Now I'm using the red yarn now. I have my slip knot. I've got, what have I got on there? I've got 5 on there, but again, you can do as many or as little as you want. So I'm going to do my 2 chain, just like I always do. I'm going to go into the first one, and I'm going to do 6 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, tighten it up, and we're just going to do 2 rounds of double crochet, so 1 in each of those 6. Just get a little bit sort of awkward to hold. After you've done 1, you'll sort of find it quite easy. So that's stitch 3, 4, 5 and 6, because you can see it's like turning in on itself. So if you need to sort of just push it out, that makes it easier. Make sure you've got it sort of in position properly before you set off. And 1 more round. So it's just 2 rounds of double crochets. So we've got 1, 2, I'm going to let the cat in a minute, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and slip stitch, and that's it. That is all those little bobbles are. There's nothing more, nothing less to them. Again, sewing them on, a little bit sort of fiddly, but not too bad. What I actually did is, you can see this middle piece here, I don't make sure it's really tight first before you do anything. I cut it short-ish, not fully short, and then I just push it inside Use my scissors to help push it inside, and it sort of creates a little bit of stuffing for the spine. It doesn't really need to be stuffed at all, but it just gives it a little bit more shape if you push that in side there. And obviously we need to make sure you've left enough there lengthwise for sewing on. That's the same with any additions that you make. You do need to make sure that you have actually left enough to sew on. You can add the yarn after, but it is a real pain. I'm just going to grab some stuffing. It's only here, so I've not got far to go. No idea why I didn't put it out first, because it's pretty obvious I needed it. So this is a toy grade stuffing that I use. I would recommend it again. I know there are different ones out there, but they usually have it written on the bag if it is a safety standard one. So you do need to make sure of that. Now, I was mentioning his eyes. I think we ought to do those first. Now, as I said, these are the safety eyes I use. We want one back and two back. These are Trimmets, I think. I'm pretty sure these ones are the Trimmets ones. It is a really good brand. I think I bought these from the Wool Warehouse, for example, but there are other places that do them. So let's find his little head. I wanted his eyes quite wide apart. So before you pop the backs on, decide where you might like the eyes. Sometimes it's difficult to tell until they're actually on the item, which is a bit of a problem, but I think that will work about okay. So I'm happy with that now. So I'll turn it inside out and I'm going to attach my backs. Now these particular backs, they will tell you on the instructions, it's that sort of like the dome side up. So I have to press them down, make sure. So I go one, which holds it in place. And then for these particular ones, I do 2 clicks. 1, 2. Beyond that, it would make it too tight and it would cut into the actual yarn. So the other one. So I have one where it just sort of pushes on and then it's 2 clicks from there. There we go. There we go. 1 and 2. I did miss that first click there. So when I turn it round now, it's not too tight. The problem being sometimes if it's something small, these backs can actually sort of misshape. So when you're stuffing, you have to be very aware of where you put in the stuff in. You can always, I mean, I know these are glued in, but you can put the eyes in and then you can sort of like wiggle them about into position because you don't want that ring from this showing. So that is something to be aware of when you are doing that. Now, as far as his mouth's concerned, we can do that before we pop the face on. I did do it after because I forgot to put his details on, didn't I? And this is just a embroidery, I was going to say, and you can use an embroidery thread, but this is actually a fine crochet cotton. I'm going to make a nice big knot in there because you want to make sure it doesn't come through. Decide which way up his little face is going to go, and in fact I want to tighten that one up because there's a little bit, can you see, if this isn't tight here you'll end up getting a little hole, so be careful with that. So I'm going to pop in that. I think that's about right. I'm going to go across and across, and that's it for his little mouth. Again, you can do any shape, any feature you want, but we've got a little mouth there and I'm quite pleased with that. I'm just looking why my video's gone dark. I have absolutely no idea. I think I'm probably running out of power, so I'm hoping that that is going to be continuing. I think, yes, I can just see me. So it goes dark, so it goes on to like a low power. So we can now make a knot in this. Come over here. Thank you. Usually gives me a warning when it's going too low, but it must have just gone onto a low power. And we just can trim that off. Again, I don't trim things too short. If you were ever concerned about this coming undone, just sort of thread that through and make sure, stuff's really weird that way, isn't it? And make sure that it's going to be nice and solid there. So we have our face, we have our tail, we have one spine. Now, as I said, with these, I just used some felt. I cut some little circles out. I do have a die cutter, which does make life easier. So I cut the circles out. And as you can see, these are stitched on. Again, depending on who the gift is going to be for, you could get away with gluing them on. Just make sure it's nice and secure with the glue. Make sure I think a PVA glue is probably better. Don't be using super glue on yarn, even though I did for the eyes. It's not the best thing to use. I really don't like super glue, but sometimes needs must. So there we go for his little spines. Now, as far as sewing on is concerned, I'm just going to sew the tail on for you guys. I'm sure you know how to sew things on, so I don't want to sort of be teaching you something you already know. I don't want to sort of be insulting anybody. Now I'm going to just shove that long end in there. Sometimes wool is great to be used as stuffing. And I'm going to take it high again on this one. So I'm going to go approximately there. I can't see what I'm doing now because it's not showing me at all on my phone. And I want it about there. So I'm just picking the outer stitch here. And then a little bit of the actual body. The outer bit. And then a bit of a body. I'm just going to do that all the way around. Just keep checking where you want your positioning. Sometimes you might need to move it as you're working with it. I think that's okay for mine. You will find each one you do will be slightly different. Now you need to make sure, obviously you need to leave space for the stuffing. My needles come off. As you can see, I'm also doing my work while it's on the orange because I do think you could position it better. A little bit harder to hold perhaps when you've got an orange in there, but it does help you stitch your things into place, and that's why I usually use my orange to do that. That's why I have an orange for working on, and I have an orange, then I would buy new oranges for gifting, because the oranges get battered a little bit. So make sure we're happy with that. Yeah, and to carry on round. I'm just going to do a couple more stitches, and then I am actually going to stuff it. One more. So I've left a little gap there. I'm going to pop that stuffing in. Make sure it's all the way in. And push it back on my orange. Now try not to catch the stuffing. It's easier said than done. Oh, determined. See, you know what I said to you? I said make sure you leave enough to sew on. I clearly didn't there. So it's going to make it harder now because I've got these stitches to try and squeeze in with only a little bit of yarn. It's definitely do what I say, not what I do today. It's one of them days, I think. Right, we're almost around. I think I can just squeeze this out. Right. So now I need to do a little knot, which is going to be difficult with such a tiny piece of yarn. There we go, nice and tight. And then like we do normally, I'm just threading it through. If I've got enough yarn, a couple of times. I haven't. Go on, in there. Get in there. I'm determined to get it through one more time because I don't want to have to add yarn. There we go. And da-da, we're through. So I can just trim off any excess yarn, and that's his tail. That looks most peculiar, doesn't it, at the moment? I'm not actually going to sew any more bits on for you guys because again you're going to want to position it yourself wherever you're wanting to put it. I'm looking forward, actually, that'd be quite cute. It looks like he's looking around a corner. So you can position that wherever you wish, and then decide how many of these little lumps you want across his back. Now these are a little bit fiddly to sew on. I started at center point and sort of decided where I was going from there, or you could start at the tail and just give it a sort of, I don't know, what have I got there? Maybe there's that a centimetre gap, something like that between each one. So that is our little dinosaur chocolate orange cover. I hope you enjoyed him. I'm really pleased with him. I know when my grandson sees him, I know what's going to happen. So he's in hiding for now. So I'm really pleased with how he's turned out, and I hope you enjoy making him too. Thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy my videos, please like, share, subscribe, etc, etc. And I will see you all soon. As I said, my next crochet one is actually for the smart doll, and I will see you all very soon with lots of other bits of crochet. So see you soon. Bye bye for now.